It's all good. I can hear you fine.
Okay, now you're synced. You weren't synced at first. Now you're synced.
All synced. Just hit the record button. People are starting to come in the room. Thanks for joining us. So just getting my accoutrement here. I'm getting my post and my different things. So 1, 2, and I got my little cheat sheet. All good. Cold as shit out there today, man.
I know. I just had another friend text me and say he's joining Doge.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's hysterical.
Yeah.
That's hysterical. I just did a post, so folks are going to start coming in the room now.
Fantastic.
Oh, you get the Blazer game on again today.
Bro, I'm not messing around.
I haven't. You haven't seen this one though. This is a new one. The little hands-on angel, little hockey sweatshirt. Come on.
I gotta get some of that swag. If you're giving out, I'll pay for the swag. What do I gotta do to get on the swag?
You know, all kinds of good stuff. I might have a surprise for you tomorrow night when I see you.
Oh my God! By the way, I'm texting all that crazy. We're not going to mention any names because this is recorded, but I will say that there has been an incredible amount of inflation around using or renting out a restaurant space. This has been super interesting, like putting this together. That tequila night that we're planning for tomorrow night has blown up. I have a bunch of amazing people. I'm very, very much looking forward to it. And the place.
Did you finalize the venue? Are we locked in or no?
We'll be fine. We're gonna be fine. I have 2 irons in the fire.
We'll be fine. Do not panic.
Look, I'm getting gray
Famous
hairs.
last words. Do we have a venue? We'll be fine. It's almost like when your mother used to give you something new to eat when you were a kid, and you're like, "What is it? It's fine. Just eat it."
It's gonna be fine. So we're getting close, but I will say the first venue came back and was like wildly overpriced. So I reached out to another venue that I know that's very close by, and I was like, "Hey, could you do this?" And they were like, "Yes, we'd love to have you." And then they reached out this morning like, "Actually, we can't let you bring your own booze into the space." And I was like, "Okay." So noted for next time. And so I have a couple irons in the fire. I'm sure one of them will pay off, and if not, we'll just go to like Rosa Mexicana or something. I don't know.
Which is not a bad backup, by the way.
I know. It's just like
I know you wanted to do something a little different. I got it. I'm with you, man.
Well, there's 20,
all right,
there's
let's get rolling. Oh, the payment for this. Let's get rolling. So I think this is episode 10 or 11. I lose track, Rob, because there's been so many of them, so many great episodes. So welcome to the Vibes and Ventures podcast. My name is Steve Walsh. I'm also known as the Hands-On Angel. This is my good friend, Rob Hughes, also known as the Startup Alchemist. How you doing, buddy?
I'm great. I'm sorry if anyone's shocked by the lack of a beard. I was in Aruba, and my wife wanted to see my face. I almost settled on a mustache, but it got vetoed last second. She said, "Please, I would just love to see your face once and for all." So I spent the first half of my week in Aruba trying to recognize myself, which was very awkward, very odd. And so I'm glad to be back. I'm sorry I couldn't be here last Monday, but I was in the air, and I will tell you, Aruba is beautiful, but their internet is lacking, we'll say.
Lacking. I have lived it myself. It's my favorite place to go, by the way, but it's lacking.
It's a great space. I had a beautiful tan last week. It's already fading. But
it's one of my most relaxing places, though. The food's awesome. People are great. Super safe. Water's awesome. Just, I don't know. It never gets old. I've been there 10 times in the last 25 years.
I think it's great. I think the food's okay. Like, I wouldn't say the food's great. Like, they don't really have I wouldn't say they have like a cuisine that's like, this is the Caribbean or Aruban cuisine. It is sort of like a hodgepodge. I mean, you get whatever you wanted, and it was all good. But I didn't have any food that like blew me away.
My favorite there is the fish, like grouper, snapper, mahi.
So
like, because, I mean, literally, they catch it that day. If you're going to eat something there, it's the fish.
We were at one restaurant, and we were like looking over it was like on a dock. We went to 2 that were on docks, and it was like that you could see the water was all lit up, and you could see the fish. They were like right out.
Did you go?
Right
was that Pinchos?
No,
because that's Pinchos is one. It's on a dock. They actually will feed the fish while you're eating. It's awesome.
It's great. All right.
All right, let's jump in. It's my 3 things, man. You want to hit us off?
I'm gonna start. I'm gonna try to start. We'll see how this goes.
Okay.
Are we ready? Google wants to record my session. That's weird. Here we go. Ready? Point number one. Can you see that?
Yes, sir. All good.
All right. He's on board. Okay. So this was this thought that I've been messing around with, these two sort of things that are happening right now. Number one is vibe coding. I don't know if you're aware of this, but it's like leveraging AI to code and doing like a very simple, it's like using prompts and generative AI to build product. And it's kind of this emerging trend. And that one's like most people are aware of, but this top one I really want to talk about, this creator funds, the VC creator fund. I've been thinking and talking quite a bit, and I'm sure you're almost sick of hearing me talk about it. This idea like venture capital is going through like a change. It's like there's a humongous change underway in how firms are formulated, how they deliver value, how they deploy capital, how they differentiate themselves amongst their peers, how they get returns for their LPs. All of this is like in a moment, it's having a moment, and a lot of it's due to the fact that like SaaS is becoming more and more of, it's becoming more and more easily created and distributed. I mean, it's never been easier to create a SaaS company than right now.
Yeah.
And it's so much harder for folks to differentiate, like, here's what we do that's so much significantly better than our competition. Almost everything is being copied and pasted and bettered and at a cheaper cost. And there's almost this, there's almost this moment happening where if you're just a SaaS company, how do you differentiate yourself? And so I think that's going to have trickle down effects to the VC class of like, hey, how are you going to deploy $1 billion into companies if you're a SaaS investor? Like, where does that go to? Like, how do you make your bets now? And I think that it's creating this new wave of VCs that are sort of like personality types that are able to leverage their brand that they've built to give their portcos lift. And like, because that's going to be a huge differentiator. Is like, how do you market yourself? How do you gain audience? And how do people think about your brand? Well, now one of the roles that investors are going to play is, hey, I can give you lift. I can give your brand credibility. I can give you audience. And I think like that's going to become one of the next major waves of venture capital, or it's like these creator venture capitalists that have massive amounts of audience that they're going to lever towards creating alpha for for themselves and for their investors. That's just the thought. I don't know if it's real.
No, Rob, look, we're going to talk about this later in one of my 3 things. That's what I've been building for the last 7 years, man. Like that's it. Like if you ask, like I've done this 67 times at this point. I have 67 portfolio companies. If you ask or quiz any one of my portfolio companies about what my check size is, 9 times out of 10, they can't answer you. Not only do they not know the number, they don't care, because money is the least important thing I can give any of them. The least important. The most important thing I can give them is access to my massive network of people like you and visibility across my ecosystem, which is now global. The money's the least important. I would argue that I agree with you that going forward, the people that are going to win the venture game are not going to be a $100 billion fund with Masayoshi's son. They're going to be people that can bring so much more outside of capital to the table. And that's where a lot of founders are shying away from traditional venture, especially in the early stages, at least what I'm seeing.
Before I lose it, because I just had a thought, it kind of reminds me of like this moment that celebrity has gone through in the last 10 years where celebrities now make way more money by like investing into companies and into funds and into projects and then leveraging their audience to create outsized gains. I mean, you're talking about, I was watching like the Reese Witherspoon leverage that she created with her book club, and that getting the rights to the movies that, to the books that did the best so she could create movies from them. So she's like basically found a way to crowdfund or crowdsource the best books or stories, and then goes to the studios and says, look, this book did so many sales, we can absolutely do a movie and make money. So she's like leveraging her platform for creators, but also to create value for herself and for her studio. It's like, okay, so maybe what we're experiencing what we're going to experience in VC is sort of tied to that. It's like, do you have audience? Yes. Can you leverage your audience to the benefit of your portfolio companies? Yes. Okay, then there might be some LP funds for us to deploy.
Great example happened last night. Did you watch the NBA All-Star game or whatever they call it now? Okay. The halftime show was a kid trying to make a half-court shot, a three-point shot for $100,000 against one of the pros, and he did it. And the whole thing was put on by Mr. Beast.
Of course. I finished that show, by the way.
Which is the biggest creator in the world, one of the biggest creators in the world. 5 years ago, nobody knew who he was, and now he's on national television at the halftime show for the NBA. Like, are you kidding me? And that guy's a brand.
Did you watch his show on Amazon?
Some of it, yeah.
You got to finish it. Beast Games. You got to watch it. It's like must-watch TV in a way that like not a lot of other shows touch on. It's really, really good. We just finished it with my kid. One of my sons this weekend. It concluded just the right way. It was really, really good. But again, yeah, leveraging like people building audience and then figuring out how to leverage that audience to the benefit of others and along with themselves. I think that's the move. I think that's where VC is going to go.
All right, good. I like that. Was a good opener. Okay. Number one for me. Let me grab my screen. You can see this, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, where the heck am I? No, hold on. Hold, please. I just had it. Of course, now it's gone.
It's because you have 1,000 tabs open.
Oh, well, that's what I have to listen. There's a therapy group for me. Calm down. I'll find it. Hold, please.
It's incredible. The amount of volume you put out on like your posts is just astounding. And for people who don't know, if you're not following Hands On Angel on X, you're missing out. And if you're not following him on LinkedIn, you're missing out. But when you do follow him, just be prepared. The volume is extraordinary. It's so impressive.
This is a post I did a couple weeks ago, but I wanted to talk about it today under the guise of founder burnout's real. And nobody wants to talk about it, but in a lot of cases in my 6 portfolio companies, Rob, the ones that have failed, they don't fail because they run out of money. They fail because the founder quits. They simply get burnout. And I did this post a few weeks ago about how to overcome founder burnout in 3 steps, and I'll share it for those that didn't see it. First of all, schedule time for nothing. Like open your calendar, block out an hour and label nothing. No calls, no emails, no doom scrolling. I think your brain is like a Wi-Fi router. Sometimes it needs to reset to connect to the genius ideas. So schedule time for nothingness for yourself.
Yeah.
The next one is stop hoarding your to-do list like it's precious. Start with tasks that you hate doing, whether it's bookkeeping, and outsource it. Do you hate scheduling meetings? Use a calendar automation tool. Embrace delegation. It's another key thing to prevent founders from burning out. And the last one is treat self-care like a KPI. All of our founders track ARR, CAC, LTV. How about treating self-care like a KPI? How about a new metric, BPS, burnout prevention score? Gamify your self-care. Did you sleep more than 5 hours? You get 5 points. Did you eat something other than takeout? You get 10 points. So these are just some interesting ways that I think founders can prevent burnout. I think it's a real thing, and I don't think it's talked enough about. So I'd love your thoughts.
I think in general, burnout's not talked enough about. I think a lot of people either like overdiagnose that they're burnt out or they underdiagnose it. I don't know a lot of people that are like properly diagnosing like when you're burnt out. I saw an incredible piece on this. It was basically like you're borrowing time from tomorrow and the day after. And once you get too far behind, so you're borrowing energy for days and days in advance. Once you get too far behind on that, that's when you've reached burnout. And so it's like, think of your day as a battery. You have this much energy, deploy that much energy. If you need to go into the next day, just be aware that you've gone into the next day and don't go so far that you're days and days and days behind. And one of the signs they said, like, hey, you might be experiencing the symptoms of burnout is like you can't get yourself to do anything. Like you're just laying there, or you're like, you're just having your general malaise is high, it's inability to get going. It's like you're not a worthless piece of garbage that can't do anything. You're probably just been doing too much and are a little burnt out. Time to hit the pause button, turn your screen off, please. God Almighty, turn your screen off and find some peace and quiet and restore yourself enough so you can get back after. But if you're not doing that intermittently, you're going to have a hard time to like keep going. And most of this, I mean, humans, this is crazy. Humans evolve, like we're able to become the dominant predator on the land anyway, because
Yeah.
could outrun our prey. And so we would get like, because of our surface area of the sun, which is significantly smaller than animals that run on all fours, and we don't have a lot of hair, we're never overheat. We have a hard time overheating. So we just run our prey to death, like big buffalo, big elephants, big whatever. That's how we used to mammoths. That's how we used to conquer them. We run in tribes. We run them to death. Their hearts would explode. They just give up. Like, I can't do this anymore. I've overheated. But even with that, like, you're a human. You still have to rest. Like, you still have to find time to regain yourself. So you could be a monster of a producer. You could be a monster of a CEO or a founder. You could be the next greatest thing. But if you can't find ways to like refill those batteries, you're going to run out of breath and your competitors are going to kill you.
Yeah, it's well said. I agree. I had a founder pin me over the weekend and wanted to get together and do some stuff. And it's not because I didn't have the energy or I didn't want to. I was like, look, I am extremely protective of my weekend, specifically my Sunday. And Kim and I go out usually every Sunday, and we do a little thing called Sunday Fun Day. We've been doing it for years, where it's just the two of us. We'll go to a favorite bar, go watch a ball game, go have lunch, maybe a happy hour, whatever. Yesterday, we met up with two good friends we haven't seen in a couple months for lunch, late afternoon lunch. And it was awesome. And I'm super protective of that. And it's not because I don't want to meet with my founders. I'm just like, I know that there are certain times during the week that I just need to not do what I normally do. And I need to take time to focus on my family, my relationships, my friends, and all the other things that make me me. Because if I do that, I know that when I go back to it today and right now, I'll be a better person, a better founder, a better funder for it, and a better friend. So I'm very intentional about not doing the stuff I do during the week on the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's just natural to like try to find those breaks and like slow. Like, well, there's people that do it 24/7, blah blah. Those are a fraction. They're so small of a percentage of the people in the world that it's very unlikely that you're one of those people. And if you are, like, congratulations, go do something so big that you would never even watch this podcast anyway. But if you're watching this pod, there's probably a good chance that you're a normal person or maybe an overachiever or a high achiever, whatever that is.
Sure.
You're still a human and you're still bound by the energy constraints of a mortal. And so if you are that person, recognize it, be smart, be judicious with your time, make good decisions, and try to, as much as you can, to put energy back into your system. I made this big breakthrough this weekend, which was, I'm just going to share because I think it's crazy. So I started working with a nutritionist like 3.5 years ago. And ever since I started working with him, and I ended up dropping like 70 pounds or whatever, ever since I started working with him on Saturdays, it's cheat day and I just go nuts, right? But it leaves me like feeling so crappy on Sundays that it takes me till like 2 or 3 in the afternoon on Sundays to start feeling like myself again. And I just stopped it this weekend. I was like, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm just done. Like, I don't have enough spare energy, reserve, time, fill in the blank, right? I don't have enough of that to waste an entire half day feeling like garbage. Like, that's done. So that piece is, that's gone. And so some of this is like, well, what are the things I'm doing that are taking away from my energy or prohibiting it? For some people, that's going to be staying up late. For some people, that's going to be drinking. For some people, that's going to be eating garbage. For some people, it's going to be not getting enough sleep or doom scrolling or dopamine overloads, or you name it. The number of vices that are available to you at your fingertips today has never been matched in history. We've never had more opportunity to be distracted, to be pleasure, to put ourselves into a negative hole that's hard to get out of than we are right now. And so if you could say, well, I don't have more time, it's like, well, what are the things that you're carrying right now that are not helping you, but they're hurting you, and you just got to give them up? Like, what are those things? If you're watching this or listening to this, you already know what I'm talking about. You already have like 3 things that popped into your squirrely little brain, and you're just too much of a coward to let them go. And I'm telling you right now, strap on your big boy boots, put that big belt on, and do the stuff you need to do. You got to lean into like, some of this is just going to require more commitment from you. Some of it's just going to require that you let go of some things that you've held on to for just a little too long.
Professor Rob is like on a roll today, literally on fire.
Bro, my wife's not here right now, so I can get on my soapbox and not feel like a moron.
That's fantastic. All right, what's your number 2? That was a long number 1. Wait, no, that was long number 1 for both of us. What's number 2?
All right, I'm gonna skip to number 3 because I think it rolls better.
You're going right to number 3. Okay, you're jumping.
Yeah. I'll go back to number 2. I'll circle back like Jen Psaki, but I got
2 is 3 and 3 is 2.
Yeah. You'll be fine. Okay. This is like crazy talk. I think anybody who has watched it is you should take a peek at it. It's from I think the Huberman Lab. The start line. This is the line I wanted to. This is the whole purpose of the talk. Accept the initial agitation. I mean, you'll see. I think you already get why I'm going to this because it's around that thing we were just talking about, which is like your ability to accept the initial agitation and press through it allows you to get stuff done that you don't want to get done, that you would delay, that would hang over your head, that would just carry like a cognitive load that's too heavy to bear. You gotta get used to just leaning into that initial like uncomfortability. I was for a long time, and I'm gonna get back into it. I started my days with like a cold shower. And one of the things I learned from doing that was like the first couple of seconds, every day was hell. The first few seconds, every day, it didn't get any worse. Just thinking about it's making me cringe. The first 30 seconds was just awful every single day. But after that, it got way, way better. And that's true of any task in your life. The things you have to get done, you're gonna feel this initial like lean away, don't do it, pick up my phone, scroll, find another way around it, excuse, enter, I can do it later, enter whatever thing you're gonna do. If you can suppress that feeling and just lean into the initial agitation, you'll get a lot more done. That's the whole point.
I was talking to my oldest son who lives in California this morning. I was leaving the gym. He was leaving the gym. And he was just talking about the feeling when you leave. And, you know, he said the hardest part about the gym is never the workout. The hardest part is just showing up consistently. And I said, the rest is easy. And so for me, Rob, I force myself. I'm a morning gym guy like you are in a lot of cases. I just can't do it at night. It's too much of a social hour. I'm cooked by then. But for me, it's also the hardest thing I have to do for the entire day. And by doing it first, I actually feel that the rest of the day, no matter what comes at me, is easy. Because I know that getting my ass up to get in that gym every day for 2 hours is going to be the most difficult thing I have to do. And everything else is just about sequencing and reps at the plate. So, and my son shared that with me. I said, Cam, I think that's relevant for the gym and for life, business and life. So do the hard things early in the morning, man. That's my thing. All right, number 2.
When you have the most energy.
The number 2 for me is goes off of the fact that Friday was Valentine's Day, and you have a beautiful Valentine as I do. And it goes under the guise of none of us do this alone. So I think you and I are very public people with our communities, and they all think that we have this aura of, you know, and this vibe that we do it all alone. But that, like, nothing could be further from the truth. And I know you on a personal level, so I know that. And what they don't know is that most people don't realize that all of us have a tribe behind us, and that tribe helps us. And sometimes that's our partner, that's our kids, that's our siblings, that's friends who inspire us, who help us and hold us accountable. And I will share my screen. And I did this post on Friday because it was Valentine's Day. And it just said, here's to those who got to marry their best friend like I did. And I share that with everyone, and it's not a flex. It's just to let everyone know that you and I that we're human, that there's always someone behind the scenes who might not be in your face and a gregarious personality like me that helps me be who I want to be and lets me be who I want to be. And I just think that all too often we give this aura of I'm a superhero and I do it all by myself, and nothing could be further from the truth. So I share that with you today.
I love it. I love the fact that in the post you're wearing the same sweatshirt you got on right now. It's like consistency. It's
consistency, man.
I don't think you could I think it's really hard to be out there and be a big character and do things like some of the things that we're doing if we don't have that person at home that kind of keeps us grounded or allows us to have an anchor point. Because like you can, you could get lost really quickly and get pretty self-delusional without that person to like help bring you back to the baseline or help you not get too over your skis or out of control. So yeah, 100%. And if anybody's wondering like, why are you guys talking about so much personal stuff today? It's like, well, there is no business. It's just you. And if you're not working on yourself, like you're, the likelihood that you're going to be successful in your company is like really low.
Well, it's also like you know, I wouldn't be able to do what I do without Kim and everyone else behind me. Like I wouldn't
100%.
not having her in my corner, not having you as my friend, not having my brother as an inspiration as an entrepreneur. Like it would just make what I do so much harder. That just makes it easier. So 100%. What's your number 3 that was your number 2 or vice versa?
Oh yeah. I mean the people at home don't know that we share this before we go. So I'm gonna do it. This chart shook me. Software development postings on Indeed in the United States. Just
oh wow.
Look at this.
Talk about falling off a cliff.
Look at it. Just look at it. I mean, this is crazy. This is that is nuts. That is absolutely
welcome to the world of AI.
It's so alarming that it's hard to ignore. I was talking to Greg. No, who was I talking to? Dan. I was talking to Dan over at Growth Labs this morning, and he was talking, and we were talking about sort of the DeepSeek and how much disruption it caused in the market, and we're thinking about like why did that happen or why was it so disruptive? And I just thought, like, well, sometimes the fundamentals of a company get so shaken that it causes investors to rethink why they invested in it, and I think that's what we saw in the days and weeks after DeepSeek kind of showed the world what they had been working on, and I think that this is one of those charts that strikes you too, like, hey, I think this is not just a moment. I think this is a movement, and there's a difference where it's like, this is not something we're going to look back on and be like, oh, remember that blip when people stopped hiring software developers?
Right.
I think it's more like the role of a software developer has changed and it's not going to go back.
I just think you can do so much more with so much less nowadays. I think it's going to change. But Rob, no different than the role of a lawyer, an accountant, a bookkeeper.
Agreed.
All those industries are going to change, and they're going to either realize they have to either move up, move out, pick one, do it quickly.
I mean, the one thing that's constant is change, right? So everything's always changing, but this is one of the ones that feels very large. It feels like we just witnessed the sort of an end of an era kind of a thing, and that's okay. There's going to be plenty of jobs that arise and opportunities that arise from what we're building, and all those things will be wonderful, and we have no idea what it's going to look like. But this is a moment. It almost reminds me of like, the people that used to do they used to be typists, and all of a sudden they just kind of went away one day. Or the people that used to connect phone calls. There used to be an operator connect phone calls, and then one day they just weren't necessary anymore. And I don't think that software developers aren't necessary. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the number of them that we're going to need doing the work that they've been doing traditionally has gone down. And that's, I don't think, is refutable. And I think that's many of the jobs that we've created in the last 100 years will fall into that purview of like things that we don't need to do the way we were doing them anymore.
Right. Totally agree, man. Totally agree.
Yeah.
My last one, I don't have any visuals, but this is more of an observation. So I'll call this, you need to show up to blow up.
Oh, wow.
I get pinged all the time, and I'm extremely fortunate. I get pinged by founders, investors, LinkedIn, emails, calls, texts, carrier pigeon. And they all want to know, how have I, created this overnight success with air quotes? And I'm like, well, first of all, I don't really think of it as overnight. It's been 7 years. And what people don't see is, it's taken a long time. You got to play the long game. They don't know that for the first 2 years, didn't monetize a thing. In fact, made no money doing it, just spent money learning. And I'm going on conversation 3,000 with founders over the last 7 years. And a lot of times they don't want to hear about what's not worked, how I failed, how I've learned, how to iterate, try again, work through things to get to where we are. And what they really don't want to know is the risk you have to be willing to take what I call the ultimate bet in life, which is one on yourself. And I share that with founders because a lot of times they're all, and we all suffer from it too, Rob. We're all looking for that hack. How can I do it faster? How can I skip a step? How can I just go from 1 to 100?
Yeah.
And the reality is, my reality, at least from my own founder experience, has been there's very few shortcuts. You have to put in the time and the work. And if you want to blow up, you got to freaking show up.
I love it. I kind of was, I was going in a different, when you said that, I kind of had a different direction I thought you were going in. Did you hear the leaked audio from Jamie Dimon that popped up over the weekend?
No.
It's incredible. He's talking about like work from home culture versus in office culture. And he just kind of like goes off the handle of like, we're better in person and like all this stuff. And when you like, you got to show up to, what did you say? I just say you got to, if you want,
you got to show up to blow up.
You got to show up to blow up. And I was like thinking in that way, but also like, yeah, there are no overnight successes. Like it is a bunch of, it's a lot of times it's just the consistency of doing it over and over and over again. And then like, and that leads to the success. So many, especially content creators talk about just doing it for years and years and years. And then all of a sudden it just hits.
Look at what you were nice enough to mention earlier, like about my content. Look at my content today compared to 4 or 5 years ago when you knew me. Like
even a year ago,
it's so different.
Even a year ago, Steve, it evolved so much over the last year. It's incredible to watch. And like, I'm not blowing you up here. The kids gave me a term for this. I think it's like glazing you up or something like that. But that is real. Like there's a level at which you're doing, like the volume that you're doing, that you're able to learn a lot faster because you're getting so many more reps than most people. Like it's just so.
And you have to be willing to put it out there. You have to be willing to fail. You have to be willing for a post not to work or not resonate in order to do it. We learn by doing. We just do, Rob. How many conversations do you and I have on a weekly basis about what do you think of this post? What do you think of this tone? And we were going back and forth on yes, no, maybe. And sometimes we just get to a point where like, just pull the freaking record and post it.
We kind of pull the grenade pin out a lot more now. I think when I started posting on that, I was like, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And you're just like, can you just post? Just tweet, dog. Like stop. Whatever you're doing, it's driving me nuts. Please stop. And I was like, all right, done. Like I'm just gonna grip and rip. I'm just gonna send it. And
that's fantastic.
I don't think you can get there without getting enough reps in. I'm not that I'm there or anything, but it is just a repetition game. And as long as you're observing the results of the action and trying to incrementally find some gains, like I hate to do this, but I'm going to do it. Screw it.
You're muted, dude. You muted yourself.
I hit the space bar because I got so excited. When I put my arm down, I hit the space bar. Okay. So Tom Brady was the greatest quarterback of all time because at 30 years old, he reinvented his throwing motion. And he said he wanted to get 1% better every year. And that 1% better from 30 to 45 ended up being the 15% better than he was than anybody who had played the game before. And I don't want to hear about Patrick Mahomes until that guy can read a pre-snap read and like get into the right offense for his team instead of running around and throwing these magic throws all the time. He's not in the conversation. He could be, but he's not.
And by the way, don't go to 3 Super Bowls, go to 10 and win 7.
Well, he's been to 5 already. Patrick's like had a crazy run here.
But as I said last weekend after Philly put the beat down on him, 5 is not 10 and 3 is not 7. That's it. That's the end of the conversation.
And we're not going to do a sports call here, but you lost head to head in a Super Bowl to the guy. You got to get one more than him to be the greatest. So you got to get 8. Yep. And you're turning 20, he's turning 30 this year. Maybe he gets there, but most likely he's not going to get there. But anyway, that dedication to getting 1% better every year, like how do I find 1%? And like not just being satisfied with where you are, but like how can I just get a little bit better at the thing? How do I get a little bit better? Like I don't think people realize how important that is to like your overall trajectory and like your outcomes. Like if you settle in to just accepting where you are is where you'll always be, or like that
Yeah.
that you peaked at a certain time, then you're right. You did peak at that time. But if you can just find a little tweak, like how can I get a little bit more? What are the things I can do to get a little bit better? Are there things that I can let go of or pick up that make me better? And if you're doing that, there's no reason why you can't just continue to stack on your advantages and continue to grow and learn and expand. And like that, I don't know, life isn't an RPG, but it feels like it sometimes.
That's the quote. That's the tweet. Life isn't an RPG, but it feels like it sometimes. Come on. That just right off the bat. Right. Great way to end. That's a mic drop.
Costanza again. Why do I always Costanza on this show? I end with a mic
right
drop.
In the end. Right in it. That was a great way to end it.
Yeah.
All right.
Incredible.
Life is not an RPG, but it feels like one. So thanks to those that joined today. Thanks to my good friend Rob Hughes, the Startup Alchemist. I'm Steve Walsh, the Hands-On Angel. And we'll see everybody next week on the Vibes and Ventures podcast. Thanks for joining.
All right, let's go.
All right. I got to call you on something. Do you have like 5 minutes?
Yeah, of course.